You ever sit down to study, read the same paragraph 5 times, and still can't remember a single word? Meanwhile, there's that one person in class who reads it once and recites it perfectly. What do they know that you don't? Here's the truth. Your brain isn't the problem. The method is. And today, I'm going to show you the exact system that makes memorization feel illegal. No tricks, no hacks, just neuroscience you can apply immediately. Let me start with something most people don't know. Your brain doesn't actually memorize information. It encodes patterns. Think about it. You can remember every word to a song you haven't heard in years, but you forget what you studied yesterday. Why? Because the song created a pattern. It had rhythm, emotion, repetition, and context. Your textbook? Just random facts with no connection. That's why it slides right out of your memory. Here's where it gets interesting. Scientists at MIT discovered that the brain stores information most efficiently when 3 conditions are met. First, emotional activation. When something triggers an emotional response, your amygdala tags it as important. Second, spaced repetition. Your hippocampus strengthens neural pathways each time you revisit information at specific intervals. Third, active recall. Passively reading creates weak connections. Forcing your brain to retrieve information builds highways of memory. Let me give you a real example. I used to be terrible at memorization. I'd cram for exams, get decent grades, but forget everything within weeks. Then I first learned about a technique used by memory champions, and everything changed. It's called the encoding principle, and it works because it hijacks how your brain naturally operates. Instead of fighting your biology, you work with it. Here's how it works. Every piece of information you want to remember needs 3 elements: an image, an emotion, and a location. Let's say you need to memorize that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Most people just repeat that sentence over and over. Boring, ineffective, forgotten by tomorrow. Instead, picture a tiny power plant inside a cell. Workers running around, electricity sparking everywhere. Feel the energy. Place that image in a specific location, maybe your kitchen. Now, when you think of your kitchen, that image fires up, and boom, you remember. The psychology behind this is called elaborative encoding. When you transform abstract information into vivid, emotional, and spatial experiences, your brain treats it like a real memory. Not a fact you memorized, but something you lived. That's the difference between memorizing and actually knowing. And once you understand this, you can apply it to anything. Languages, formulas, speeches, dates, anything. But here's the part most people miss. Timing matters just as much as technique. Your brain has a forgetting curve. Without reinforcement, you lose about 50 of new information within an hour, and 70 within a day. That's why cramming doesn't work. You're filling a bucket with holes. The solution? Strategic repetition. You review information at specific intervals to catch it before it fades. First review after 10 minutes. Second review after 24 hours. Third review after a week. Fourth review after a month. Each review strengthens the neural pathway until it becomes permanent. Now, let me show you how to use this in real life. When you're studying, don't just read. Turn facts into stories. Let's say you're learning history. Instead of memorizing dates, create a mental movie. Picture the scene. Who was there? What were they wearing? What emotions were in the air? Make it vivid. Make it absurd if you have to. The weirder the image, the better your brain remembers it. Here's another one remembers it. If you're memorizing a list, use the method of loci. It's ancient, dating back to Greek orators who memorized entire speeches without notes. You take a familiar place, like your house, and mentally place each item you need to remember in different rooms. Walk through your house in your mind, and each room triggers the next item on your list. Olympic-level memory athletes use this to memorize thousands of random digits. You can use it to ace your exams. Let's talk about language learning for a second. Most people try to memorize vocabulary by repetition. English word translation, repeat goal or my. It's slow, painful, and ineffective. Instead, use context and emotion. Don't memorize the word happy. Picture a moment when you felt pure joy. Attach the foreign word to that feeling. Now the word isn't just a translation. It's an experience. Your brain locks it in because it's tied to emotion, not logic. Here's what this looks like in practice. You're learning Spanish. The word for table is mesa. Don't just repeat mesa table, mesa table. Picture yourself sitting at a massive, messy table covered in your favorite foods. Smell the food. Hear the noise. Feel the wood under your hands. Now shout mesa in your mind. That word is now branded into your memory. Do this for every word, and you'll learn faster than people who study twice as long. The science backs this up. Studies from the University of California show that emotionally charged memories are 30 more likely to be retained long-term than neutral ones. Your brain prioritizes survival. Anything that triggers emotion signals importance. By artificially creating emotional responses to information, you trick your brain into thinking it matters. And once your brain thinks it matters, it remembers. But memorization alone isn't enough. You need retrieval practice. This is the part most students skip, and it's the most critical part. Reading your notes over and over creates the illusion of learning. You recognize the information, so you think you know it. But recognition isn't recall. When the exam comes, you freeze because your brain never practiced pulling that information out of storage. Here's how you fix it. After studying, close the book. Grab a blank sheet of paper and write down everything you remember. No peeking. This is painful at first because you realize how little you actually retained. But that struggle is exactly what builds memory. Every time you force your brain to retrieve information, you strengthen the neural connection. Do this once, and you'll remember more than if you reread your notes 10 times. Let me give you a personal story. When the first was preparing for a major certification exam, I used this exact method. I studied for 2 hours a day, but I spent 30 minutes reviewing and 90 minutes testing myself. I'd create flashcards, but instead of flipping them to check the answer, I'd force myself to explain the concept out loud before looking. If the first couldn't explain it, I didn't know it. That active struggle carved the information into my brain. Exam day came, and I barely had to think. The answers just flowed because I'd trained my brain to retrieve, not just recognized. Now, let's combine everything. You want to memorize something fast and make it stick. First, encode it with emotion and imagery. Second, place it in a mental location. Third, use spaced repetition to review at strategic intervals. Fourth, test yourself relentlessly through active recall. When you do all four, your memory becomes a weapon. You're not just memorizing, you're programming your brain. Here's the thing most people don't realize. The brain is lazy by design. It doesn't want to work harder than necessary. That's why it forgets. Forgetting is efficient. It clears space for what matters. But when you consistently signal that something matters through emotion, repetition, and retrieval, your brain has no choice but to keep it. You're not fighting biology. You're using it. One more advanced tip. Sleep is your secret weapon. During deep sleep, your brain consolidates memories. It takes everything you learned during the day and files it into long-term storage. And if you study right before bed and then get quality sleep, you wake up with stronger memory retention. This is why all-nighters destroy learning. You might cram the information in, but without sleep, it never solidifies. Your brain needs that processing time. So here's the final system. During the day, encode information with vivid imagery and emotion. Use the method of loci for lists. Test yourself relentlessly. Review at spaced intervals. And before bed, do one final review session. Let your brain work overnight. Wake up, and you'll notice the information feels clearer, more accessible. That's your hippocampus doing its job. Let me summarize everything for you. Memorization isn't about repeating facts until they stick. It's about encoding patterns, triggering emotions, spacing reviews, and practicing retrieval. When you understand how your brain actually works, you stop fighting it and start working with it. And when you do that, memorization doesn't just get easier. It feels effortless. Try this system for 1 week. Pick one subject, one topic, and apply everything I just explained. Create vivid mental images. Place them in locations. Test yourself daily. Review at intervals. Track how much faster you learn compared to your old methods. You'll be shocked at the difference. Because this isn't a trick, it's neuroscience. And when you use science correctly, results are guaranteed. Remember, the strongest memory isn't built through repetition. It's built through connection, emotion, and retrieval. Master those three, and you'll memorize faster than you ever thought possible. This isn't about being smarter. It's about being strategic. Your brain is already powerful. You just need to learn how to use it.